Hey, lovelies. It's another episode of the Interweave podcast, and this is the first episode for the year 2024. And we're kicking off with relationship because we're in the month of love, and we want to talk about something very exciting, and we've seen it like happen in our time. A lot of marriages tend to end up in divorces, and it's becoming like a norm. People just think I can get into marriage and get out because it's no longer convenient for me. And we want to like just dissect it and understand why people marriages are ending up in divorces. Is it something amazing, or is it just for convenience? Why are people getting into marriages and just ending it? And as usual, I have my host and special guest. Thank you for joining us today's episode.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Let's just dive right in. So I saw this post on Instagram, or not just, I think it was a picture, and it had the caption on it: "We've been married for 57 years. Instead of having different partners, why not have one partner and love them in 57 different ways? 57 different days, blah 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 blah." But summary of everything is that they've been married for 57 years and they're still very happy. And I'm wondering, like, what kept them for 57 years? Like, for people to marry for 57 years, and people like in our generation can't even marry for like 1 week, and there's a lot of issues. Like, what's happening in this our time and age?
Without meaning to be spiritual, of which I'm not,
Okay.
the author of marriage is God.
Yeah.
And looking through all the complexities of marriage in our modern day and time, I discovered that we have deviated from the will of God, which is primarily the essence of all the confusion and all the strife and all the breakdown of the institution of marriage. Man is meant to love his wife, while the woman is meant to submit herself,
Yeah.
to him. But in our era of the Confucianists, known as the feminists,
No, but I also think that in our era, men are not loving the women like enough. Like, because I can't just submit to anybody. I need to know that I need to be able to, how do I put it now? I can't just submit to anybody. You need to know that the head that you're trying to submit to, the head is correct.
you have missed the point. The point is this: you're talking before the marriage. I'm talking after you've made the decision to marry the person.
But there's always a dating stage before the marriage
That's
stage.
what I'm saying. When the Bible does not say, "Woman, submit to your boyfriend." It says,
Yes.
"Submit to your husband."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about the process of marriage, not before the marriage, but during the marriage.
Okay.
So
What then happens with the dating stage?
the dating stage is where you make your own decisions. Now, you are talking about you cannot just submit to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about pre-marriage. I'm talking during the marriage.
Okay.
After you've made the decision to spend the rest of your life with a man,
Yeah.
your primary duty is to submit to him.
Yeah. Why marriages end in divorces? So we're looking at it from the standpoint that it doesn't just start from the marriage, like the pre-marriage, the dating stage and everything. Like, what are the factors or the circumstances that eventually, like, the marriage ends in divorce?
Now, I've been writing a book called The Price. It's titled The Price. It's talking about relationships between black men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So if we are talking in reference to black relationships,
Yeah.
then it's peculiar. Blacks are in a state of what I call cryogenic suspension because they are drawn between their own world and the Western world. So in between the battle of trying to find who they are, find themselves, they have undergone what can be easily referred to as an identity crisis.
Yeah.
You understand? And whether we want to admit it or not, in the old days, women were born and bred to please men. They were born and bred to anticipate the needs of a man and meet those needs. But in this generation, we now have women who are bred to be independent thinkers, free thinkers, highly educated women, women who have been bred to understand that marriage is not their priority. And then whether you take it or leave it, the black woman, in her search to advance her cause, has grown to be a lot more sophisticated than the average black man.
Okay, so are you saying that that's the reason why marriages are crashing?
Well, they are, like I said, if we're making references to the peculiarities of black relationships, the fundamental of why black relationships fail is the idea on which the couples went into the marriage in the first place. Let's take Nigeria for an instance.
Okay.
98% of couples that get married in any direction, either whether it's traditional or church weddings or court weddings or how have you, are not necessarily in love. They are in agreement.
Wow.
And without the foundation of love that creates the system of accommodation, if you notice, I do not use tolerance.
Yeah.
Without the system, you discover that you're marrying a stranger. You only need a trial to discover that it's easy to break you guys apart. And a lot of relationships that led to marriage are based on survival.
Survival instinct.
Yes. So it's not based on love. It's not based on any practicality. The average upbringing that should have led to some levels of level-headedness is now absent. When I was growing up as a child, my parents, one of the earliest things my parents taught me is don't take anything from strangers. But women of our generation, the black women, not only take things from strangers, they demand things from strangers.
That's like taking us in another angle, I was just thinking, there's no fire without a smoke. Abby, I'm right. There's no smoke without fire. Smoke without a fire. I think that the genesis of the problem that people like bring into marriages don't just start like when they get into the marriage. Like it begins from the dating stage, the courtship period, and all of that. Like people are overlooking a lot of things that should be priority. Like people don't even communicate enough about the right things during the dating stages, and when they get into the marriage they're like, I thought you were like this, you are showing me like I think that comes from a place of lack of communication, because if people are communicating properly, all of those issues won't come up like in marriage, and the next thing they resort to is to divorce because hey, I can't deal with this person.
The first thing you have to understand is that there has been a bastardization of the culture. Now, what do I mean by a bastardization of the culture? There has been less reliance on the cultures of our forefathers and more gravitation towards materialism. Like I always care to tell people, I say the bane of accelerated domestic prostitution began with
transport fare.
Please give me transport money. It was the beginning of entitlement.
Yeah.
The beginning of women losing their self-dignity.
And I also think that that's as a result of, people are no longer able to like show their real vulnerabilities, like to be vulnerable around the people that they care about. Like, to intimacy is not just in having sex, blah blah blah. Like, it goes way beyond that. And if, for example, like somebody you love, for women, you will not want to like collect money from him. So I feel like in this time and age, people are no longer in love to even stay in marriages. Like, it goes way beyond the superficial. Like, people are no longer interested in being in love to stay in marriages.
When you are hungry,
Mm.
both mentally and stomach wise,
Mm.
there's really no room for emotion.
Mm.
Only the pang of hunger that leads to the derivative of finding how to feel that hunger, which makes you more of a predator than a human being.
Which
So,
makes it dangerous to get into a relationship, talk of marriage.
so the women generally, black men, Nigeria. If you narrow it down to Nigerian men have no respect for the women.
Mm.
The average Nigerian man believes that once he has money, he can do as he pleases. And the average Nigerian woman believes if you don't have money, you have no business in the race for relationships.
Mm.
So there's a bastardization of events where the men make money and the men now feel that they are not constrained to be civil, that they can do as they please. Doing as they please means multiple partners. It means a lot in the negative, direction.
Mm.
So the main issue here is that a lot of black couples go into relationships for the wrong reasons, and the lack of respect generally that black men have for women. If you're around some careless men, you hear them say, "Wait till they follow woman talk for 1 hour."
Mm.
Now, when you look at the concept of that kind of statement, it shows it's derogatory.
Yeah.
And it goes to say, without doubt, that most of the time, couples spend a lot of time in courtship without necessarily knowing who each other is, who they are.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any serious conversations.
Yeah.
They don't have serious conversations about themselves, about their challenges, about finances, about ideology. They're just there, they make up time, and if they don't fall apart before there's a maturation of events to talk about marriage, then they get married. But if they fall apart, fine. But on an average, if you catch a young lady or you catch a man off guard and ask them a question about their partner that is important, there's a 99% probability that they do not know that. That is the thing. Our marriages now are based on survival, and there's a delusion of what happiness is in marriage. Happiness in marriage has nothing to do with the feeling of kindness. The kind of effect that we have, when we are happy, or happiness in marriage has more to do with stability that is drawn from the endurance level of couples, especially the women, because the women are being led by the men.
Okay.
Our mothers, when I mean our mothers, is like those of us who are in their 40s, 50s. Our mothers and our grandmothers, if they have to be very honest, they will tell you that they were not necessarily happy.
Yeah. Sure.
But guess what? They had a happy marriage.
Yeah.
Why? Because they had a successful marriage where they put their children first and not their emotions first.
Their emotions.
But we are in a system right now where the women put themselves first.
Why not?
Where the women,
but why not?
Where the women put their emotions first, where the women have no endurance, where the women have no
And
patience,
so that's why a lot of marriages just,
fall apart.
yeah.
Because in the first place, the variables that brought them together were wrong, or maybe completely non-existent in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's uh also, I also think that, one of the reason is, a lot of people have been through terrible models of love. You know, they have very bad ideas and images of love. Like, a lot of people grew up in homes that separated, their parents are separated, and these things all formed their ideologies. And when they get into a marriage as well, that's the image they have of marriage. So they also think that they should behave the way their parents have behaved, and so you know it leads to an untimely end of their own marriages as well. You can't give what you do not have. Can't give what you do not have. So also, I think that this is one of the other reasons why 90% of our marriages are ending in divorces, because people have terrible models of love or what marriage should look like in their heads.
Love only happens most times once in a lifetime. For many, it never happens.
Mm.
There's a particular feeling that particular people bring out of you as a human being, and not everybody can. Not everybody has the joy or the blessing or the grace of experiencing such a feeling. So
Okay. I think we have basically like talked about deep things regarding why marriages end in divorce. But there's one more thing I'd like to say or like to add. People also do not spend a lot of time like planning for the marriage. People are more interested in the wedding, especially in this time and age. Like, people are more interested in the flamboyant wedding, the classy weddings. Oh, I want this kind of gown for my wedding. I want this kind of outfit for my wedding. My ashrebi should be like this, blah blah blah, and all the rest of the mundane plans. And they do not even care about the marriage. And the marriage is forever. The wedding is just for one day. So if people can start to pay more attention to the marriage, women especially who are vain in this time and age, a lot of women are so vain. They only care about very mundane things. You can start to pay attention to the very important things. I think we will be able to reverse the situation with marriages, because, truth be told, marriage is a beautiful place to be, and it doesn't always have to be this. It doesn't have to be this bad, to the point where every small thing divorce, every small thing divorce. Your husband slap you, divorce. Your husband. Hey, like, we need to go back to what marriages used to be. In the days of my grandmother, I don't think they had anything like divorce. You iron it out with your husband, stay there. But in this time and age, it's terrible, and it doesn't speak well of what's going to happen to the next generation or the next generation. So at this point, I think we would call it a day. And we hope that you are able to pick out one or two things that will help your relationship, your marriage. And if you're at the verge of divorcing your partner, please think again. Surely it is not something that is going to take your life.
and I have one more thing to say.
Okay.
The church unconsciously misleads the people to assume that we are equal.
Mm.
But in truth, we are not equal. Men and women alike are divided by variables of our upbringing, quality of upbringing, quality of education, quality of exposure, and more importantly, the general ideologies that make up who we are as human beings. There's a saying I always have. I say, you cannot compare a child who grew up watching Aki and Popo, with respect to them, with a child who grew up watching cartoons. The child who grew up watching Aki and Popo has a limited vision. well, the children that grew up watching cartoons have unlimited vision. What you attract as a human being matters. And like I always tell couples, in the first few months or weeks of meeting a new person, one of the earliest things that they're exposed to you is their ideology. But you have to pay close enough attention and be present in those moments to be able to see and hear and understand if you people are coming from the same place and if you're actually going to the same place.
That's going to help a lot.
So, so when I hear women say men are scum, the first question is, what is the quality of men that you have attracted over this period? I am saying with emphasis that they are higher class human beings and lower class human beings. But I'm not saying that the lower class human beings are worse off to be married or the higher class human beings are better off to be married. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is you must be able to attract people who are on the same intellectual, sociocultural wavelength as you are. The nuisance values that you people have will be better appreciated when you match people of the same class.
Okay.
So that is that for that.
Makes sense. Okay, at this point, we will draw the curtain on the episode for the year, the first episode for the year. Do well to subscribe, share, invite all of your community to come listen to the Interweave podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.